I'll pay a premium for fire, passion, and energy because in the market we're in, there's a lack of that, Matt DeBerry. Kirby Smart talking about the landscape of college football right now.
Yeah, it feels like this is kind of a theme right now. This is not the first time he's said that about his players, that he wants to see fire and energy and great practice habits, and guys who want to compete, right? And I don't know if he's saying that because, it's a message to his team. I mean, he's also talked about, Ryan, the fact that a lot of these guys are getting offended by strong coaching. He wants guys who love to be coached. And he said that time and time again. But when talking about guys that they recruit out of high school, that they recruit in the transfer portal, it's clear he's looking for guys who love football, love the game, and bring high energy to practice and give it 110% every rep. And they go out there and they're pushing their teammates and they're trying to get better each and every day. And he, said that about Zachariah Branch. He said that about a few guys. But if you want to win Kirby Smart over, you give it 100%. You can't give anything 110%. So 100% in practice, rep after rep. That's how you win over the coaches. That's how you earn playing time. And he's looking for that right now out of some of these players.
I want to tell you about trustdice.co. You can see on the screen right now some college football lines we've already got out. Champions, NFL, NHL. Here's the NBA for today. It's a really neat service that they've got. We're going to be responsible with any wagers that we make. Major League Baseball. Let's see if the Braves are on here. Of course the Braves are on here. Check them out today, trustdice.co. Happy to have them on board, and we'll see more from them soon. The link is down below.
Sounded like Coach DeBray talking. But
yeah.
I think that quote kind of came out a little bit in his just kind of general rant this week about NIL and all that. He had a lot to say about that, and he was getting asked about, or what are those conversations like with players that want to talk about money, and he says he'll hear them out, he'll talk to them, and he scratches them off of their list because that's not what he wants to recruit, but what he will pay for is that. There's been reports that they don't really pay high dollar for even some of these really big prospects. I think that's probably true. I think that they do spread it out if you need a good roster, but that it's what he wants. He's been saying it over and over and over again this spring, and I think it is probably coming out from some of these high school guys just aren't ready for the moment probably, and that probably happens every single year. But if guys are throwing their hands up, getting offended at coaching, that's not going to fly for very long. Like that's not going to be something that they continue to let happen, or they're going to be pushing them out the door and trying to find people to place them in. And it goes with the transfer portal as well. When he goes out and gets the Branch brothers, and he talked about that this week too, he cared about the people they were, I think, more than the player they were. Obviously, both of them are players that you think are going to be able to help Georgia in some capacity, but he just kind of talked about how much he emphasized it matters to him that they love working, and it matters to him that they love football. He's saying it over and over. He's definitely fed up with what's going on with just kind of younger people in general, and just kind of the change in the overall mindset.
When he was at Alabama, one of the challenges that Alabama had at the time was they had to, quote, de-recruit guys. So guys would get on campus. They had been a big deal. I'm just using as an example Julio Jones. I mean, Julio Jones was a big deal early at Alabama, but he wasn't the only one. You go through time, Reuben Foster. There were guys that were big deal recruits that went to Alabama and were good players, and they were good players, either early or not. They had to be, collegeized, but essentially the term that was used was de-recruited. They can't do that as much now, man. I mean, it's not like back in the day where there was no portal and guys were not getting paid. This is a very different landscape, Matt. And I think that, one of the things to me that Kirby and company are going to have to do is figure out what is the new de-recruitment of players once they get on campus. How does that work for, everybody involved? Make sure you're signing up for our newsletter. I'm going to put the QR code. You see the screen right there. I'm going to put the QR code on the screen. Just click on that. The link is down below as well. But click on those of you watching us on something other than your phone, go ahead and click on the QR code with your phone, and it'll take you right to this page, and you can take it from there. But Matt, it's gonna be tough. It would be tough. Zachariah Branch is not probably the greatest example because he's played college football before. But let's just say there's a a George Pickens or a Jermaine Burton or a guy Brock Bowers that came in and they were immediately playing, they're going to think, well, I've got this figured out. In terms of Kirby paying for passion and so forth, if it were that easy, I think it would be that easy. But it's very challenging to find. I think who's the best example of that? Nolan lately or Nakobe?
I mean, probably both. You could look at some of the running backs too, Kamari Lassiter, Javon Bullard, those types. When I think of Kirby Smart's favorite players, everyone's got, a list. And I think some of those guys are very much towards the top. But, he's in a bind a little bit because Kirby Smart, in his mind, the harder he coaches you, he expects you to get a lot out of it, right? He wants to coach guys to get better. Well, now if you coach guys too hard, they already have one foot in the transfer portal, even if they're starting. So if you push these guys more and more and they don't necessarily want to be pushed, you're going to push them into the transfer portal instead of push them to be a better player. So the way he coaches is definitely old school, I still think. And it's a new school era now with all of these new aspects in college football when guys are getting paid and they can leave basically whenever they want. And you've got starters that you have to keep around who may not want to go through a whole season of Kirby Smart yelling and screaming at them in their ear during practice, right? So it's easy to push guys away now more than ever when, the old school way was the more you coach them, the harder you coach them, the more you'll get out of them. And that's not necessarily the way things are these days. So, we talked about it before, Ryan, but Kirby Smart in a lot of different ways kind of has to adapt the way he coaches and develops these players.
I don't know how you would change your coaching style because the people are different though. I just kind of don't think that. I mean, he does have to adapt in certain areas, but I mean, what is he going to do differently because these kids care about money now in practice? There's I just don't think there's anything different he can do.
No, there's nothing. I'm sorry to cut. It's just, once you get on the grass with cleats, it's practice, man. And that's it. So it's not like it matters how good you are or how much you got paid. If you're not going, you can't. I will say this. I don't think you can coach every player the same way because everyone's not. I don't talk to y'all the same way. Why? Y'all aren't the same people. There are general guidelines I think that Kirby and them have to have. But Ryan, I agree with you. I think they've built a machine. But the only difference is the machine needs more money now, and the accountability may be slightly different as it relates to that. But the machine is still there, and I think it will work. But Dabo and what's going on at North Carolina in basketball, they let everything change underneath their feet and they didn't adapt. That's not the case right now at Georgia to me, Ryan. They're just the way that they run the machine is just slightly different. It takes money.
Yeah, that's the only change. But like you said, when they're on the practice field, they created a standard and they know they've won rings with it and they know what it takes to do that. Things are a little bit different when the pieces of the machine are different. But in terms of the actual coaching, if anything, I was just going to get a little bit harder. Right? Because if the players don't have that fire as much as some in the past or that passion, they're just going to get more fire out of the coaches. So I think that could be one of the changes. But young people are just different than they were 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Just go on TikTok, and that's what young people are doing. And they're dancing, and they're caring about how many people are looking at them. They're caring about how much money they're making and stuff like that. And
the kids these days argument.
I'm partially part of it, and it's just a weirder group of people. But it's different, and he's got to adapt to that. But when you're putting on football pads, I don't think that part changes.
There's no phones out there, y'all. You gotta. You want people to look at you. Shit, you play at Georgia, you're gonna have 10, 12 million people watch you play regular season football games, Matt. I don't buy from the youngest person on here the kids these days argument. It's just
I put myself in there, man.
No. I think you're being too critical of your generation. I don't. Are they still your generation? Technically,
I think I'm technically Gen Z.
Okay, so everybody doesn't have it figured out when they're 18 to 28, I would say. So the kids these days, Kirby and them are going to have to coaches these days. It's going to have to adjust a little bit, Matt. And look, for me, Matt, there's no if the standard's still the standard, it's still the standard for Kirby Smart and Georgia. They need to win national championships.
Yeah, and I think the quickest way to do that is to get the most fire, passion, and energy out of the group that he currently has. And if he can, I still think this team could win a national championship. They have a long way to go, as he said, but I think that is still a possibility.
I think the one thing that could be, I don't want to put words in Kirby's mouth necessarily, but I think the one thing that could be frustrating to him is that he can see it sometimes and it's not always there. That is the part of coaching that can be really challenging, I think, is when you know someone can do something and they don't consistently do it. That's probably driving him crazy more than anything, if I had to guess. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video.